Russian President Vladimir Putin will skip the G20 Leaders Summit to be held on November the 15th and 16th in Bali. That's according to the Russian embassy in Indonesia. The chief of protocol at the embassy says he may participate virtually. Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov will lead the Russian delegation to the G20 instead. Indonesia has also invited Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the summit. Zelensky says he won't participate if Putin does. Earlier, US President Joe Biden said he had no intention of meeting Vladimir Putin at the summit. Indonesia has resisted pressure from Western countries and Ukraine to withdraw its invitation to Putin. The G20 host says it doesn't have the authority to do that without consensus among members. Indonesian President Joko Widodo says the G20 is not meant to be a political forum. He says it's meant to be about economics and development. Well, we can talk now to Mark Brolin, economist and geopolitical strategist and current affairs commentator and author, joining us live now. Mark, what do you make of Vladimir Putin's seeming decision not to attend in person?
Well, it's certainly a sign of weakness, and I think it might be the case that we are now experiencing the end game of Vladimir Putin. By not attending, he is handing President Zelensky of Ukraine a PR coup if he decides to attend, which he probably will do. And I think it might be the case that Putin doesn't dare to leave Russia, or possibly even Moscow, while afraid he will be toppled when away.
I'm sure the Kremlin would absolutely dispute that characterization of events, but how do you see that endgame playing out then?
Well, I mean, usually when there are big events, there are usually upsides and downsides for all parties involved. But in this case, it has been a complete disaster for Russia and President Putin. If we sum up the problems, possibly 100,000 Russians have died. Previously neutral countries, Finland and Sweden, are about to join NATO. Putin has alienated his largest energy market, which is EU. And Russian military forces, they have proven to be inept. The Russian economy is no doubt shrinking and might now be about half the size of the UK economy or the Indian economy, since the UK and Indian economies are similarly sized. And also the infighting and scapegoating in Moscow has begun, and he's alienating also people inside Kremlin. And many people know that he must go, otherwise Russia cannot reset. So I think he's desperate, and and many people want him gone now. So I think it might be he could be. I mean, he might be able to cling on. Some people, he has power still, but he could also be gone in days.
And what about the G20? Sergei Lavrov will be there, we now understand, on behalf of Russia, leading the delegation. What type of reception do you think he will get? Because there are G20 members who are less robust in their relations with Moscow than, for example, the United States and the UK and some of the European G20 members.
Yeah, I mean, it's a power vacuum now, especially south of the Russian border in Central Asia. And I think many of the G20 members, they will be discussing what's going to go on, for example, in Kazakhstan and Kazakh natural gas. So I think that will be many of the sideline discussions in Bali. But Zelensky, I mean, if he decides to go, many will be wanting to be seen. So the optics of that will be a big blow to Russia. But I think also the discussions, as I indicated, I think many of the interesting discussions will be in the back rooms, and what's coming out of that summit might not be as interesting as what's going on behind the scenes.
Thank you, Mark, for that perspective. That's Mark Brolin, economist and geopolitical strategist, current affairs commentator and author, joining us live from London.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.